Hare Krishna. Please welcome to today's Bhagavad Gita class, which will be from chapter 6, which is Dhyana Yoga, and verse number 40. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschet Durgatim Tatha Gacchati. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveya Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschet Durgatim Tatha Vidgacchati. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinasastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschet Durgatim Tatha Gacchati. Tata Gacchati. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschet Durgatim Tata Gacchati. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinasastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschet Durgatim Tata Gacchati. Mataji. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinasastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschet Durgatim Tata Gacchati. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Partha, O son of Pritha, na eva, never is it so. Iha, in this material world. Na, never. Amutra, in the next life. Vinasa, destruction. Tasya, his. Vidyate, exists. Na, never. He, certainly. Kalyanakrit, one who is engaged in auspicious activities. Kaschit, anyone. Durgatim, to degradation. Tatha, my friend. Gacchati, goes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities, does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Purport. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.5.17, Sri Narad Muni instructs Vyasdeva as follows. Tyakteva sadharmam charanambhujam harer bhajans apakvotha pate tato yadi yatra kva vabhadram abhud amusya kim ko vartha apto bhajatam swadharmata. If someone gives up all material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. On the other hand, a non-devotee may fully engage in his occupational duties and yet not gain anything. For material prospects, there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. A transcendentalist is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness, one may attain the highest perfection if it is completed. But if one does not attain such a perfectional stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reaction for not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. The Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need not be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reaction for not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he is still not a loser because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so even if he is low-born in the next life. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. The purport may be understood as follows. Humanity may be divided into two sections, namely the regulated and the non-regulated. Those who are engaged simply in bestial sense gratification without knowledge of their next life or spiritual salvation belong to the non-regulated section, and those who follow the principles of prescribed duties in the scriptures are classified amongst the regulated section. The non-regulated section, both civilized and non-civilized, educated and non-educated, strong and weak, are full of animal propensities. Their activities are never auspicious because while enjoying the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending and mating, they perpetually remain in material existence, which is always miserable. On the other hand, those who are regulated by scriptural injunctions and who thus rise gradually to Krishna consciousness certainly progress in life. Those who are following the path of auspiciousness can be divided into three sections, namely the followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material propensities. 2. Those who are trying to find ultimate liberation from material existence. And 3. Those who are devotees in Krishna consciousness. Those who are following the rules and regulations of the scriptures for material happiness may be further divided into two classes. Those who are fruitive workers and those who desire no fruits for sense gratification. Those who are after fruitive results for sense gratification may be elevated to a higher standard of life, even to the higher planets, but still, because they are not free from material existence, they are not following the truly auspicious path. The only auspicious activities are those which lead one to liberation. Any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization or liberation from the material bodily concept of life is not at all auspicious. Activity in Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity. And anyway, who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. And because the eightfold yoga system is directed towards the ultimate realization of Krishna consciousness, such practice is also auspicious, and no one who is trying his best in this matter need fear degradation. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Shagrayatam Sagana Raghunatam Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarupescha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So welcome to today's Bhagavad Gita class chapter, as I said, 6 verse 40. So if I just wanted to put this verse in perspective, the Gita basically revolves around 5 basic principles, which is basically Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala and Karma. And Jiva is always trying to take control of Prakriti around Kala and Karma. And when he tries to lord over this Prakriti, this is called Bhoga, exploitation. So the Jiva is trying to exploit the Prakriti, and because of this, what happens is it leads to anxiety for him. So it leads to anxiety for the Jiva. On the other hand, he is completely forgetting that there is somebody called a Ishvara who is actually the controller, who is looking over all of this and who is the actual enjoyer, whereas the Jiva thinks that he is the enjoyer. And in this particular process, he completely forgets and gets into into this anxiety mode. But then he realizes that must be an alternative way to get out of this anxiety, and then he looks up and he sees Ishvara, who is actually the controller, and then he goes to service that Ishvara, and this is called the union or yoga, the union with Ishvara. So this is basically around which the whole thing starts, and the problem happens is that Arjuna is actually asking Krishna, this particular question, and then Krishna starts with explaining about Buddhi Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Nishkarma Karma Yoga, and then finally comes to what is called as Ashtanga Yoga, and this is basically when Arjuna's doubt after hearing the demanding process of Ashtanga Yoga, he fears that if one fails to perfect yoga in this life, he might be lost both materially and spiritually. And what happens is, therefore, Arjuna is lamenting that, how can he therefore kill his near ones? And this bewilderment causes him to ask this question. And therefore, Krishna says that instead of trying to, teach him how to use the arrow or something, he actually uses his opportunity in the 1 hour, and he talks on the Gita, to refocus his mind to the actual process so that then he can really do his duties. And after hearing about Ashtanga Yoga, Arjuna says that, look, the problem with me is that my mind is what he calls as chanchalam, pramati, or it's like balavat, strong, dhridam, stubborn, and it's pramati like a storm. It's very, very difficult to control, and therefore it becomes very difficult for him to. And he was asking how to control this chanchalam mind. What should I do? So then Krishna actually goes into this, this particular 6.40 is Krishna's emphatic response to the next set of questions that Krishna tries to kind of explain. He tells him that, the only way that he can control his mind is two ways. Abhyasa, which is practice, and Vairagyam, that is detachment. This is the only way that he can try to control his mind. That is by practice, abhyasa, and as he said, by detachment. That means vairagyam. That means how to keep the mind away from various activities. So then, Arjuna says that, okay, I can try to do that and try to prioritize this by trying to practice more and engage in detachment. But he says that if I focus on all this, what will happen? I will neither be spiritual or material. I will be stuck up in neither here nor there after having invested so much of my time into practice and vairagyam, detachment. So this 6.4% comes into picture where Krishna's emphatic response is, he tells him that that a sincere spiritual aspirant never faces destruction neither in this world nor the next. So this is his, specific verse which he says that Kalyan Krit, where he says Partha. Partha is nothing but he addresses Arjuna as the son of Pritha, which is his mother Kunti. And if you see, Kunti was extremely devoted to Krishna, and she actually had said that she went through lot of ups and downs, lot of adversity, lot of prosperity also, but lot of adversity too. But in spite of all of this, she was completely dedicated to Krishna and had built up this relationship to Krishna. And therefore, Krishna addressed Arjuna as Pritha, the son of Prithu. And he therefore says, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities, which is nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgatim, does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. So this is the way he assures, Arjuna, that though you may be focusing on practice and detachment to control your mind, and in case in this process you are neither being completely materialistic nor completely spiritual, but the very fact that you have embarked on this journey of being spiritual will add to your credits. And whatever happens, wherever you fall, in your next birth you will begin from where you lost in your previous birth. So, even if a practitioner fails to complete the path, there is no loss or degradation. Krishna consciousness is never futile. And this is what Narad Muni also, this is quoted in the Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.5.17, where Narad Muni tells Vyasdeva about the same thing. And one can also quote people like Jada Bharat. Though he thought of, though he was very devotional, when he was going to die, or at the point he got very attached to a deer, and he was born as a deer in the next birth. So though you you went one level down as an animal, but he was always Krishna conscious. And whatever spiritual progress he had made in his previous life helped him, even in the next birth, though he was a deer. Because normally it is told that once you are in the animal form, you have no cause to think like a human being. You should be born as a human being. But here, Jada Bharat, because of the fact that he was so spiritually advanced, and only at the time of birth, because he thought of a deer, he was born as a deer. But he still remained, if you remember that pastime, he still remained thinking about Krishna in the next birth, though he was born as a deer. Similarly, you have the elephant, who was again, the Indradumna Maharaj, who became an elephant. So he also used to, because of his earlier spiritual gains that he had, he was still thinking of Krishna, and then he also got delivered. So the other parallel Bhagavad Gita verse is 2.40. It says that Neha abhikramana so asti pratyavaho na vidayate svalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So in this endeavor there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So even a little progress on the spiritual path is never lost. And further down, if you see in 6.41 to up to 6.45, Krishna explains that the unsuccessful yogi is born in a pious or spiritually advanced family and resumes his practice, highlighting the continuity and preservation of spiritual effort. So all of this, when you listen to the next verse, you will notice that Krishna, still gives you this particular example, that because of the fact that you may be spiritually advanced, whatever that sukruti that you have gained in this birth will continue from wherever you have left off in this birth, and you will be able to advance. So nothing is lost. The more you practice, the more only you will gain out of this whole thing. So in this regard, if you see Srila Prabhupada, when he was in the US, and when there were people distributing books, Bhagavad Gita books on the road. So at that time, in 1967, I think, there was a very famous book which was released, which was called I Am Okay, You Are Okay. It's one of the psychologists, I think it's Harald somebody who had got this book, and when the devotees used to go and distribute these books, people used to say, no, we don't want to read the Bhagavad Gita, but can you give us this book? I am okay, you are okay. We are interested in reading about that book. So the devotees went to Srila Prabhupada and told him, the people in the US, when we try to distribute these books, they are telling that, why don't you give us, I am okay, you are okay. So what should we reply? So Prabhupada, in his usual sense of humor, he said that you show them the Bhagavad Gita and tell them, I am okay, but you are not okay. So you can only be okay if you can really understand your identity and your position in this world and what is the reason that you're born in this world. So it is basically to do service. So this is the way, Srila Prabhupada went and kind of convinced the devotees to convince the people on, not to read books like I am okay, you are okay, but read the Bhagavad Gita, which will make you okay. So then there is Bhagavad Gita 9.31, which says, Kaunteya pratikyanihi me bhakta pranasyati. So, said, declare it boldly, O son of Kunti, by devotee never perishes. So, Krishna's promise of protection for his devotees echoes the assurance of 6.40. So, as I said, also Narad Muni mentioned, if someone gives up all material duties and takes shelter of the lotus feet of Hari, even if he falls down, what is the loss? But what does one gain if he perfectly executes his material duties but does not engage in devotional service? So, spiritual endeavor is always beneficial and never wasted. So, also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22.62, it's mentioned that even a moment's association with the pure devotee cannot be lost. It brings the highest benefit. The effects of spiritual association and practice are eternal and accumulate over lifetimes. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also has mentioned that he has emphasized that Krishna consciousness is the only true wealth. All other endeavors are ultimately fruitless. Even a little genuine effort in bhakti is never lost, and the Lord personally protects the progress of his devotees. Srila Prabhupada also mentioned, stressed that devotional service is never destroyed. The Lord's promise is absolute. Spiritual progress is cumulative and everlasting. And finally, if you look at, the Patanjali, who is the creator of the Yoga Sutras, he talks about habit, and he defines habit as memory of previous experience of pleasure. So, if you can replace this habit, as I said, the previous experience of pleasure, by doing service, associating yourself with devotees, visiting the dhams and all that, what will happen is that these new memories of pleasure will erase the old memories of pleasure which was related to sense gratification. And by doing that regularly, you will then get into this, what we call as the higher taste. And that is, what one should look at. And if you see the 4 pillars of bhakti, or the 5 pillars of bhakti, is the intensity of our sadhana, the consistency of the seva that we do, the sensitivity of the sangha, the integrity of our character, and the purity of our intentions. If all of these 5 things are there, and if you can meditate on that, that will basically increase your bhakti, and that is your ultimate yoga. The bhakti yoga is the ultimate form of that. So, if you see some of the Vaishnava songs by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, it says, Jiva Jago, Gaura Chandra Bole, Kota Nidra Jao Maya, Pishachari Kole. Wake up, sleeping soul, the Lord Gauranga is calling. How long will you sleep on the lap of the witch Maya? So, Bhakti Vinod Thakur urges the soul to awaken from material slumber and take up devotional service. Even if one is entangled in Maya, by responding to the Lord's call, one's spiritual progress is assured and never lost. So this also echoes Krishna's assurance in Bhagavad Gita 6.40. So what happened was Raghunath Das Goswami, when he went to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he told that, I really want to get away from all this family and all that. I want to completely focus on this. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, please hold. It is not just important to just shift your body from one place to the other. What is important is how you can focus your mind on Krishna consciousness. So first try to become steady in your, Krishna conscious process itself before trying to take any decision. And then he told him that, I'll be going to Vrindavan and then come to Puri. So you then come to Puri. So he said that, his father had ensured that there are guards around him for him not to escape. So he said that, how is it possible that, I can just directly come to Puri just because I wish. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that once you really think and have the desire to come to Puri, what will happen is Krishna will remove all the obstacles in such a way that if Jagannath ji wants that you come to me to meet me in Puri, he will ensure that things will happen in such a way that there will be certain situations created. You can also think in your mind that you suddenly feel that, oh, how can I do this service today? It's impossible. But then, because of the fact that, if you are purely from the bottom of your heart, you wish to do that, then you will see, because Krishna is a controller. You are not the doer. Krishna is the doer. So he will create situations such a way that out of the blue something will happen and then you will be able to execute that. I don't know how many times you have experienced that, but I have experienced it several times, that I wanted to visit Puri once. I was in Germany and there was no way possible that I would be able to go for the Rath Yatra in Puri. And though my prayer was very simple that I want to come for the Rath Yatra, and I could never see any possibility of doing that. But in the profession that I am in, what happened that there was a customer visit to India at that particular time. It suddenly happened out of the blue. And then I also had to accompany that customer, which happened at the last moment. And because I could go there, I could even go for the Rath Yatra and visit, Puri, and could attend the Rath Yatra. So there are these instances which are there even in Kali Yuga. If you see, things happen once you actually desire to do that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions that only by satsang that one can really get to serve Krishna more and more. So you have, and therefore the Mahatmas of this world, though they are engaged in several activities, they roam around just to preach and give this love of Krishna to the others. And that is the reason, one of the reasons Prabhupada, he went around the world and created this big community of various temples around the world and preached the Sankirtana movement and Krishna consciousness, so that today I, sitting here, and you can come and associate yourself in this temple and read the Bhagavad Gita and listen to the Bhagavad Gita. So, one time what happened was Prabhupada was in Juhu temple, that is where he started, and then there was this big rich devotee, his name was Brajaratan Mohta. He came to visit the temple, and then Prabhupada introduced him to the various people around, saying that, look, he's a very rich businessman who has come to visit us in the temple. So that time, this Brajaratan Prabhu told Prabhupada, I am not a big businessman, but you are. You went with 50 cents to the US, and then now you have created so many temples around the world which are worth so many millions of euros. So you are a businessman and not I. So then Prabhupada told him, then why don't you join my business? So then he said, no. I will try to support you from outside, but I will be continuing with my business. But so that is what Prabhupada's mercy is there, that he went around and created this whole community of people who which helps us to do the satsang and associate with devotees. So the next, the Vaishnava song, basically from which Bhakti Vinod Thakur is Miche Maya Ravase Yache Bese Kacha Habudu Bhai Jiva Krishna Dasaye Vishwasa Karle Tar Dukkhanai. So why do you drift in the waves of Maya, suffering and drowning, O brother? Accept yourself as Krishna's servant and all suffering will end. This song reinforces the message that surrender to Krishna and engagement in devotional service guarantee protection from all miseries. Even if one stumbles, Krishna preserves all progress, as promised in Bhagavad Gita 6.4. So there's another song from Sharanagati, says, Avasya Rakshibe Krishna, Tabapada Padmanath, Rokibe Amare, Arak Karta Nahi, He Bhave Samsare. O Lord, your lotus feet will surely protect me. There is no other protector in this world. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur expresses full faith that Krishna will protect the surrendered soul, reflecting the essence of Bhagavad Gita 6.4 and the assurance. So surrender and grace, of course, you know this particular verse, 18.66, which says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Saranam Vraja, which says, abandon all duties and surrender unto me. So, Prabhupada's analogy is that like a father catching a child's first steps, Krishna ensures no fall for sincere devotees. So, reincarnation and, progressive liberation, which is mentioned in 6.41 to 4.5, which is the Gaudiya view, is birth in a devotee's family, which accelerates bhakti. So, then of course the story of Bharata and Jadabharat, which I mentioned, and of course Prahlad's unshakable faith, which is mentioned in Bhagavatam 7.7 to 9. Naivo Dvijay Para Duratya Vaitaranya, I fear not the unsurmountable ocean of suffering. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Ishtastaka also mentioned, your servant considers birth after birth an opportunity to serve you. So, which was also mentioned like in the Chaitanya Charita, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, where he says chanting cleanses the heart. And the analogy is a drop of seawater eventually merges into the ocean. Similarly, a drop of bhakti merges into Krishna. And similarly, Jiva Goswami's Sat Sandarbhas mentions Krishna's promises are axiomatic. Doubt arises from material conditioning. So it's Ananya Bhakti, exclusive devotion, nullifies this karma and jnana limitations. Similarly, Bhakti Vinod Thakur's Kalyana Kalpataru, Harinama alone suffices. Chanting guarantees liberation per Krishna's vow in Kali Santarpana Upanishad. So, if you look at practical applications of this thing, is how do you overcome spiritual anxiety? The only way, Srila Prabhupada in one of his letters in 1972 is mentioned, you chant Hare Krishna without fear. So this relates to things like burnout, existential crisis, the stress that you have. This is the way you try to, by chanting, you try to release the stress. And as part of ISKCON's global missions, we do Sankirtan, which is public chanting as collective auspicious action. So, daily sadhana, which you do minimum 16 rounds, studying, of course, the Bhagavad Gita as it is in Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is what we are, talking about right now. And if you see, so material achievements can be lost, but spiritual advancement is never lost. So, non-devotional work may not yield ultimate benefit, while even incomplete spiritual effort is safeguarded by Krishna. The soul's tendency to exploit material nature, Prakriti, makes that true fulfillment comes from establishing a relationship with Ishvara through service, which transforms bhoga, exploitation, into yoga, union. The uncontrolled mind leads to bondage and distress, while a controlled mind becomes a friend. So Arjuna struggled with his with the restless mind, and Krishna's advice that practice and detachments are the keys to mastery. The importance of sincere practice, is that Krishna did not change Arjuna's circumstances, but he tried to refocus his mind through the teachings. Finally, the goal is not to please the world, but to try to sincerely, the world and the materials activities, you don't need to please them. What is most important for you is to follow Krishna's instructions and seek the pleasure of the Lord and the spiritual masters. The more you do that, the more you get connected to Krishna, the chances of your spiritual progress is ensured. So you don't think of what the world is thinking. You don't think of what is happening around the world. Your most important task is how you can increase the pleasure of Krishna and your spiritual master, and then follow this. Then, if you do that, then Krishna will enable you in the direction of spiritual progress. Otherwise, you will be again sucked into this material mode. So the efforts in Krishna consciousness is, even if outwardly insignificant, the sincere attempts to serve and remember the Lord and the spiritual lineage will bring ultimate success and never in vain. So Bhakti Yoga is the highest path. Bhakti Yoga or devotional service is presented as the culmination of spiritual act. While Karma Yoga and other forms of yoga purify and steady the practitioners, only Bhakti, loving devotion to Krishna, brings complete fulfillment and liberation. Karma Yoga and other yogic disciplines are most effective when performed in the spirit of Bhakti. Action done as an offering to Krishna, Karma Yoga in Bhakti, transform ordinary work into spiritual practice and lead to the highest perfection. Karma and yoga are preparatory and supportive, but Bhakti is the ultimate means to spiritual success, with all paths harmonized when centered on devotion to Krishna. So the role of mantra meditation is that it has a transformative power as a practical tool for clearing the mind and progressing spiritually, referencing how Vedic intervention like chanting and shift one's perspective and elevates one's consciousness. So, in conclusion, one can say that Krishna's assurance in Bhagavad Gita is echoed throughout the scriptures and the teachings of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. Spiritual effort is never lost, and Krishna personally protects the progress of his devotees. Bhakti Vinod Thakur's songs serve as living reminders to awaken this, to awaken us. And these the songs that surrender. It reinforces the message that surrender to Krishna and engagement in devotional service guarantee protection from all miseries. Even if one stumbles, Krishna preserves all progress and promises in 6.40. So, if you look at the essence of this particular verse, it says that whatever you do in this life, spiritual progress will give you credit, whereas material progress will give you debit. So, your spiritual progress credit is never lost. So you don't need to think that, oh, I've fallen down. I've done so much, suddenly fallen down, everything is lost. No. You will be rated from where you left, and then you will be progressing further. And that is the final essence. That please keep yourself dedicated and in your approach in following this particular process sincerely. This will always help you, and Krishna will finally enable you. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Sure.
So, at the end of... so it doesn't have it in German. I lost it. Yeah. So at the end of the Vortrag, Srila Prabhupada says, those who are following the rules and regulations, so after giving the 3 points, those who are then following the path of auspiciousness can be divided into 3 sections. Yeah. This is at the end of the, more or less towards the last paragraph of the Vortrag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just afterwards, he says those who are following. Thank you. Those who are following the rules and regulation of the scriptures for material happiness may be further divided into 2 classes: those who are fruitive workers and those who desire no fruit for sense gratification. The only auspicious activities are those which lead one to liberation. Any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization or liberation from a material body concept of life is not at all auspicious. So I wonder if you, this year it seems that one also may endeavor for liberation, for self-realization, for liberation, and one is still can be considered to be still be doing auspicious activities within Krishna consciousness. And so maybe I wanted to ask if you can elaborate on that. What is your thought on that?
No, so here, if you see, Prabhupada has divided this into 2 kinds of people. One is the ones who are doing activities for fruitive results. What do you mean by fruitive results? That means, I want to go to the higher planets to become a demigod or whatever. So that is called, fruitive activities. That is the result behind that. So even if once becomes a demigod, they are again, in a way, materially attached, because they can, other than the fact that they may not have a disease and all that, their life is also not eternal. It is the people, the devotees who finally, who want to achieve self-realization. What is the self-realization and what is liberation? Liberation is one different aspect. But we as devotees, we are only trying to pray to Krishna to always engage ourselves in His service, here or in the spiritual world. So, to reach the spiritual world is, of course, a very difficult path, that finally, of course, you attain Vaikuntha. That is the ultimate goal. But before that, even if you're born again and again, you tell Krishna or pray to Krishna that you engage me in spiritual service or in your service always. And that is the auspicious part. So even if you do, you may be following the scriptures in whatever way possible. But if your goal is not to serve Krishna, then it is not, supposed to be auspicious. Because even by Ashtanga Yoga, this particular chapter, if you say, the difficult process of Ashtanga Yoga also you can reach, a particular process of liberation. But that is very difficult. Technically, it is said to be very difficult. And at the end of the day, you may reach a higher planet, but you will not be finally still again come back to the material world. And that is what you don't want. You don't want to come back to this whole process of the material world, because you can fall at any moment of time. Once you fall, you coming back again, and then you have to start from scratch again. So if your goal, if your prayer towards Krishna, this whole thing that you do, in your mind, and as I said, finally, as a summary, if I think about it, whatever happens externally in the material world, if your goal is to follow the teachings of Krishna and your spiritual masters to engage in their service, then Krishna will enable you and give you opportunities to do that, and therefore help you advance in your journey of spiritual journey, to then attain this self-realization and service to Krishna wherever, in wherever you are going to come in your next birth. It could be that you have reached that ultimate stage and reach Vaikuntha, or you again when you get rebirth, you will still be engaged in your spiritual, in Krishna consciousness, and therefore keep on advancing step by step. Because whatever that you gain in each of your birth will always remain and gets added up. It doesn't get, deducted from your service. So that is the biggest advantage here, where Krishna, if you see in the next verse, it is said that if you have done something good in this world, then you will be born in a rich family, or you will be born where you will have opportunities to do Krishna consciousness. But on the other hand, that there are people who are very rich, but they are not at all connected to Krishna. That also may happen. But you have also the very rich people like, for example, George Harrison or Ford, as persons who got into Krishna consciousness. So he therefore used the wealth and the time that he had to engage in spiritual practice. You can see so many people who don't have even place to stay, or people who are engaged in wars in Ukraine or Gaza or wherever. Look at the kind of, are they able to think of Krishna? Are they able to really engage in any spiritual activity, use the religion to really progress further? No. So you and us are fortunate. Use that to gain this credit. It is like earning millions of dollars, but in the spiritual way. That is what, I don't know whether you got that answer, Brian Prabhu. That is my understanding. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.